Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. I'm just letting everybody get settled as all these screens load up and we watch the number climb. Amazing. Welcome to all these classes joining in, and welcome if you're watching the recording at some later date as well. My name's Stephanie, and I'm the program manager at Take Me Outside. This is Take Me Outside Week, and this is our final presentation of Take Me Outside Week, which is really exciting. It's been a fantastic week so far. If you have been following along, and if you have been part of any of the presentations yet so far, welcome back. And if this is your first one, then you're in for a treat, and we're so happy to have you here. It's such a fun week. Take Me Outside Week is all about spending more time outside, playing and learning, and making that a part of every day. So take what you're doing this week and keep that going throughout the whole school year, throughout your whole life. That's what we're trying to do here. And we're doing that through featuring different speakers like Elladj here, and doing different activities, and hopefully there's something for everybody that gets them inspired and stoked to head right back outside after this. So that's all our mission. And if you've missed anything from this week, we have all the recordings up so far. Nicholas is here working behind the scenes, putting stuff in the chat. So if you need any of the links and things I mentioned today, you'll find them in the chat. Please feel free to use the chat to say hello, to ask questions and all of that stuff. The chat is open, the Q&A box is open. Because it's webinar style, we can't see your beautiful faces, but we know you're there, and you can use the reaction button and do all of that to engage. And we have prizes at the end, so that's through the questions that are asked, that's how we choose the prize winners. So make sure you're thinking of some questions to ask. And I see some people saying hello. Hello. If you know the traditional territory in which you're joining in from, please feel free to add that in the chat. Anything you want to share, what grade you're in, and all of those things. So I'm joining in from Vancouver Island in British Columbia, Canada. That's the traditional territory of the Coatsan people, and the Cowichan tribes, and the Hulkaminam speaking people. And right now it is October Hui Seleno in Hulkaminam, which means the times when the leaves are falling from the trees. And because because I'm in Vancouver Island, we don't really get much snow here, so there's not a ton of skating to be had. So I'm excited to learn a whole bunch from Elladj here today. And if you are heading outside today and after this, take some photos and share what you're doing. We have a hashtag, and we have different accounts on social media that you can tag or get involved that way. Yesterday was Take Me Outside Day, the official Take Me Outside Day. So we were doing nature art. We're going to make a huge mural, a mosaic out of all the art we received. So if you haven't had a chance yet, you also have the rest of the week to send in your photos. Anything else you need to know about Zoom before we get started? We have closed captions enabled. If that's something that is useful to you, you can turn that off and on using the More button on your Zoom screen. You're all automatically muted and everything like that, so you don't have to worry about accidentally making noise or anything like that. And we'll see how it goes at the end with questions and things like that. There might be an opportunity you could be able to raise your hand in Zoom and unmute and ask your questions. We'll see. We usually have tons in the chat and have no lack of questions. So stay to the end. And as I said, we'll draw prizes from those who send in their questions. And anything else that comes up, whether if you just have sort of a technical question, do type that in the chat as well, and Nicholas will help you. And if you have to leave early, the recording will be up shortly after this. All right, so that's enough of the housekeeping and the intro and all of that. We're so happy to have Elladj here today. Wow, yeah, I'm so excited for this conversation, and I'll give you a quick intro, and then we can kind of get into it. So Elladj is a Canadian figure skating veteran, over 15 years of competitive experience. Is 15 still the right number?
Yeah, because I retired from competition in 2018, so I think that number will stay until I maybe want to start competing again, which probably won't happen.
Fair enough. Yeah, bad knee club. I feel that.
Yes.
uh, so fair enough. So 15 years of competitive experience, but is now a professional figure skater. And then you can see some of his amazing videos online now. Holy, they're great. So Balde is now one of the most sought after professional skaters in the world today, renowned for his innovative and soulful approach to his craft, dynamic infusion of dance, and his innate musicality and charisma, both on and off the ice. So born in Moscow and raised in Montreal, with strong roots in Russia and Guinea. And I'm so excited to chat here today. And also, you've started a whole nonprofit, and you've co-founded Skate Global Foundation. We have tons to chat about, and we can kind of direct the conversation based on questions that are coming through in the chat. So whenever those come up for you, for folks watching, please send them in, and we'll be watching those and answering as many as we can. And so just to finish my intro here, having begun skating at the age of 6, Balde remains an inspiration to young boys and girls around the world, hoping to bring the figure skating sport back into mainstream culture. He aims to inspire young boys to pursue their passion and not be afraid to tap into their artistic, emotional personalities. While more importantly, Balde hopes young BIPOC skaters can look to him to feel like there's a place for them in this sport. Elladj Baldé is fluent in 3 languages, English, French, and Russian. So you can ask questions in any 3 of those today.
And hopefully only these 3, because that's where my limit is.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, yeah, we tried to enable the live translations into Zoom for people watching in other languages, but Zoom has not caught up. So we are restricted to English, French, and Russian today.
That's amazing.
So yeah, folks, I'm going to start the conversation, but send your questions as you wish. Okay, so I'm going to bring Elladj onto the screen here. There we go. Welcome. Do you want to start off with anything, or do you want to just jump right into the questions?
Yeah, I just want to start off by acknowledging that I am calling from the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Tsuut'ina, the Dakota Nation, and the Métis Nations, and all the people who make their home in the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta. And I am in Calgary.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We often have a lot of folks who participate in Take Me Outside Week who are in that area as well. So
yeah, I mean, it's some of the most beautiful nature we have in our country is right here in our backyard. So I can imagine that there's a lot of people from here that you would be connected with.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, starting on that note, do you have a favorite place around there that you like to head outside? I mean, skating or otherwise?
Yeah. I mean, the entirety of the Canadian Rockies is just probably one of the most majestic natural environment I've ever experienced. I've been around the world. I've visited so many places, and still to this day, every time I enter those first ranges of mountains in the Rockies, my breath gets taken away. Between Kananaskis, Banff, Lake Louise, Canmore, all of these areas, and then obviously going further deep into BC, there's just magic everywhere. In terms of skating, I mean, I've obviously skated on Lake Louise, I've skated on Lake Minnewanka, I've skated on Lake Abraham. I'd say my favorite is probably Lake Abraham and Lake Minnewanka. I think those 2 are so incredible. Lake Abraham has those really cool like bubble formations, that you can see the layers too. Like sometimes it's like a foot of like bubbles, and it creates this like really cool like 3D kind of like shape. It's really cool to see. And then Minnewanka was my first time skating on wild ice ever. And so that one will stay close to my heart, I think, for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I can imagine. Oh my goodness. Yeah, what was it like transitioning into skating on, did you call it wild ice?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, what was the transition like? I mean, maybe we'll start there. We'll end up working backwards into where you started.
Yeah, no, the transition was actually, it took a while because as a professional figure skater, I've only really skated indoors. And that's all I knew. And to be quite honest, when I'm training for competition and spending 4 or 5 hours on the ice, the last thing that I want to do is go and skate outside, especially in the middle of the winter when it's so cold, and I've been cold all day already, right? So there's kind of this notion where like I'm skating indoors and that's the only thing that I'm going to do. And because it's the best place to train my jumps and prepare for competition, I don't need anything else. But in 2015, I really started diving deeper into my connection to myself, to nature. I started really just diving deeper into who I was as a human being. And that's where I really found my connection to nature. And we can go into more details about it later, but I remember at that time thinking, how incredible would it be to do what I love most, which is skate, perform, be connected to music, and move on the ice and tell a story, but do that in the environment I feel the most connected in nature, on ice that is formed by Mother Nature. Like nothing more epic than being able to experience something like that. But I didn't know where to start. And so I knew a couple friends of mine who like would travel in the US, in Colorado, who would skate on wild ice. And I kind of messaged them to ask if they knew anyone in Calgary area or in the Rockies. And they connected me with Paul Ziska. And he's been my mountain guide ever since. We connect on a deep level, and he's taken me on some really wild adventures. But it's been so beautiful and so meaningful. And yeah, and so that transition was a long one, but a really beautiful one. And it really allowed me to yeah, to just connect on such a deeper level with what I do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that really spoke to, you could really feel that when you were saying that story. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's I know you probably spend a lot of time in nature, and like I don't know how many people get the opportunity to like take their work and do that in that environment, and that being their office. In a way, it's like the wild ice is my office during the winter. And I'm just so grateful and blessed to feel like I have the opportunity to yeah, to experience that for 6 or 4 or 5 months out of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. What a beautiful but chilly office, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes when it's -40 outside, I've had days where I'm out on Lake Louise or Lake Minnewanka and it's windy and it's -42, and I'm just like, why am I here? This is really painful, but I'm also enjoying it because it's really beautiful. But like it's conflicting, definitely.
Yeah, fair enough. And it seems like, and just from reading about your journey and your career, it seems like you weren't always this passionate or this, I guess, excited about maybe finding the good in when you're cold and uncomfortable, and and you weren't always, yeah, you didn't always feel the same way. Can you speak a
Yeah.
little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think my relationship with the cold in general has shifted drastically because I used to hate winter completely. Like I would, because I grew up in Montreal, right? And for anyone who's been in Montreal in the winter, it's miserable. It's gray every single day. It snows. It dumps snow every other day, like inches. It's humid. And so when it's like -15, it feels like -30 and you can't shelter yourself from it. It goes through your clothes. So and then in the winter, all the rinks in Montreal are cold. So like I wake up and I'm already cold. I go to the rink and I'm cold all day. And then I leave the rink, go outside, and I'm even more cold. And I just end up being cold all day. And I always like complained about that. But it's not till I moved here to Calgary that I started to fall in love with the winter. One, because of the mountains, because of being able to skate outside. But the reason why it's so pleasurable also to skate outside is because it's sunny all the time. There's so much sun
Mm.
out here. The climate is super dry. And so when it's -15 and I put a jacket on, it feels like zero or it feels like +5. And I can deal with that. no problem. So I feel like this city and this environment has changed my relationship with winter and with the cold. And now I'm actually excited and I look forward to the winter season. It's one of my favorite seasons in the year. So I
Mm.
never thought I would be able to say that a few years ago. If someone would have told me that this is what I would be saying, I'd be like, it's a lie. You're lying to me. But here I am.
Here we are. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it seems like your relationship, I mean, to figure skating itself has also changed a lot for you
Yeah.
over the years. And
Yeah.
there's sort of other questions coming through about like sort of how old were you when you started and why did
Mhm.
you start and that kind of thing. So I feel like that's something that would be worth talking about too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can speak a little bit on my relationship with skating. I grew up, which will also take me to, I guess, the beginning of my career. But I started skating at the age of 6, and my first memories of skating was fun and exciting. And I remember my mom would just take me outside in a outdoor rink and just teach me a couple things here and there. And I was having a lot of fun, and that was something that I really enjoyed. But so I started at 6. By the age of 6.5, I was already competing. I was already like full on in the sport, trying to win competitions. And I think that jump, that how quick it got there, was really hard for me. And one of the reasons why is because growing up, my mom being Russian, figure skating is huge in Russia. It's a really popular sport, and it's something that people do, not just for fun. You do it to be the best. And if your goal is not to be the best, then you're kind of wasting your time. And so that conditioning, that idea was instilled in me at a very young age, and I felt a lot of pressure, and I didn't really enjoy that kind of narrative. But that's just what my mind was consumed by for the majority of my career. And it wasn't until I want to say in my mid 20s, when I started to question my path, and when I started to want to connect deeper to myself and to my art. That's when I started shifting my relationship with skating, and it became less of needing to achieve and needing to be the very best, but what is my gift and what can I share with the world. And I have an ability to be able to tell my story through movement. And so being able to make people feel something is something that's really powerful. And that's when I really started to fall in love with that side of things. And that started to heal my relationship with skating, because for a lot of my years in figure skating, I wasn't enjoying myself. When I was still a kid, I remember telling my mom that I would lose my skates and that my skates are gone. But in reality, they were just hidden in my closet, and my mom would find them and obviously take me to the rink and make me skate. But I'm also grateful that she did that, because it now allowed me to live the way that I live, and it's a really beautiful gift that I've been given. But the framework, the state of mind that I was in for most of my career was a lot of pressure and really intense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds really intense. And
Yeah.
and yeah, and you did compete a lot, and you both accomplished a lot through your career and also
Yeah.
had to sacrifice probably quite a lot too, both in terms of like your physicality and injuries, but
Mhm.
also probably time and the constraints or the demands that were called upon for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's, being an athlete requires a lot of sacrifices, of course, because whether you want to be the best in the world or you're just doing it, because you love the sport and you want to see how far you can go within it, it requires discipline. It requires hard work. It requires being able to face challenges. It requires, there's a lot of obstacles that are going to come along the way. But all of these things are actually incredible life lessons that you learn throughout your sport or your career that you can then apply in so many areas of your life. And I believe that I wouldn't be who I am today without my journey as an athlete. But just to give you a couple examples of like what my day to day was like when I was competing, I would probably wake up and eat some breakfast. Obviously, when I was in school, so there's two areas. There's one when I was still a student, and then one when I was just full time an athlete. But obviously, when I was in elementary school and high school, I would then go to school. And in Montreal, we have these programs called sports study programs where we do school in the morning till noon, and then the afternoon we get to do our sport. And so I would go to school from 8 to 12, and then from there I'd go to the rink and skate from 1 to 4 or 5. And then from there I would go to the gym for maybe an hour or two, and then from that point on I would go home, eat dinner, and then obviously would have to study, do homework, and then go to bed. And then that's the
Wow.
same, and then you kind of restart the next day. And so it's a commitment. It's something that, I didn't have a lot of time to hang out with friends, but I would make a lot of friends within the skating community. So throughout the day while we were at the rink, we would hang out, and there was a lot of really amazing social qualities and social moments within that. But I couldn't necessarily always go to a friend's birthday or things like that because of the sport. But I wouldn't change anything, because it's something that I really wanted to do, and I was really passionate about, and I wanted to prove to myself that I could, put in the work and reap the benefits of all the work that I'm putting into the sport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wow, that's that sounds really demanding, and but I'm glad to hear both sides of that, of the time and effort you had to put in, but also the payoff and where it's gotten you now. And
Absolutely.
yeah. And I mean, there's tons of students watching, and if they're doing their own sport, whatever it may be. Now, for you looking back, what would you say to kind of a student that's trying to do something similar, or they found a sport they're really passionate about? What would you say to them?
Sure. Um, yeah, I think the most important thing would be to remind yourself of why you do this sport and why you love the sport. Because oftentimes I found myself um, being, what's the word I'm looking for? Being almost enveloped by the pressure of performing. I need to, I need to go to this competition, and I need to make sure that I perform well so that like I can get the scores, or I can get the marks, or I can, get approval from my, all these external factors sometimes weigh a lot on our shoulders, and it makes the performances a lot harder, or it makes the journey less enjoyable. And so I think for me, where I really was able to thrive is when I felt like I was just having so much fun, and I was really enjoying what I was doing, and that I was only doing it because I loved doing it and because I wanted to do it. And regardless of outcome, what I'm going to focus on is like my performance. Because if you focus on your performance, then you're focusing on what you can control. And I think that's one thing that we all feel at certain times in our lives, is we feel like we want to control things that we don't have any control over, and that can be really, really hard at times. And so being able to focus on the things that you can control and let go of the things that you can't, then you're allowing yourself to have a much easier experience, and a more enjoyable experience. But that took me a while to understand, of course. But I think it's such an important um, way of operating, in order to allow yourself to really enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really good advice. And right when I was asking that, the question came up in the chat, so that was good timing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
people are definitely interested. And yeah, do you have a time that sticks out in your mind of where you were able to tap into that and really just feel like you were embodying the performance that you wanted to, and it came out really well on the other side?
Yeah, I've had a few moments like that. I want to say my most um, memorable one was my very last competition. Canadian national championships in 2018, I was coming in from an injury. I had a concussion, and I was really struggling with being able to train for about 3 months. Um, but within those 3 months, I really had to learn how to let go of control and really just look at what can I do in this moment right now. And one of them was just that, being able to let go and allow myself to accept where I'm at right now, because I was resisting. I was trying to get better faster. I wasn't really present with my experience right now. And so that was a big moment for me that allowed me then to, once I did start healing, I showed up at nationals. And the only thing that I wanted to do at nationals was to perform for myself and perform for the audience that has been supported me for my entire career, and just have this one last moment of exchange, where I get to perform for them and they get to receive it, and then they get to give me back some energy. And just this kind of conversation that we have while we perform is so beautiful. And so just wanting to have that as a last moment, this is something I could control, because I'm in control of my body. I'm in control of what I'm able to do. And so being able to give myself that opportunity to do that in that moment was really beautiful and really powerful. And I think that competition will stay with me for the rest of my life.
Wow. Yeah. We'll have to try and find it. Is it on the internet somewhere? We'll have to try and find it
Yeah,
and link
yeah, yeah,
it to
yeah. If you just
people.
Google my name, and then 2018, at some point, probably you'll see like national championships or something like that.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was a really, really powerful and beautiful and magical moment in every way. And so yeah.
I'm so glad to be able to hear the story behind that too, because when you're watching competitions and sports, you don't often see that whole other side of things and the journey that someone
Exactly.
might have been on. And
Yeah.
and you're talking a lot about also the mental side of things. It's not just the training every afternoon, it's also the mental side of things, hey?
Which I think is probably even more important than the physical training,
Mm,
because especially when you start, competing at a higher level, everyone pretty much can do the same tricks. Everyone's on the same level of physical ability. And obviously the people who train more will probably be more prepared, but what determines whether you're going to be able to do it on that day at that time, it's all in the
mm,
mind. It's all in your mental preparation. And I think that's, towards the end of my career, I want to say it was probably my strongest uh skill, if you want to call it. Because I understood that if I was able to keep my mind clear, and I was able to stay um healthy and happy in my mind, I would be able, I'm giving myself a better chance to be able to do what I want to do, right? There's a lot of times where we can almost sabotage ourselves, or like we can take ourselves out of the competition before we've even entered,
mm,
right? Because of, the way that we're perceiving the situation, or the way that we're experiencing it. So the mental
mm.
side of things is probably the most important, I think. And
Yeah.
also just in life in general, I think mental health is so important to look after, and it's so important to take care of that part of ourselves. Because we can experience, I've seen so many people experience so much success externally, but internally they're not really happy. They're not really enjoying any of these things, because they're struggling with their mental health. And so I think the mental health comes first. If you have that, then everything else that you experience is bonus, because you get
Mhm.
to actually enjoy and experience the depth of the moment in the way that you want to experience it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, that advice goes far beyond the just figure skating. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. And yeah, you're working it out. It's like a muscle, just like the
Mm-hmm.
rest of your body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to put work into it, and not every practice works for everyone.
Mhm.
Some people really love journaling. Some people, really like meditating. Some people like exercising, running, walking, talking to someone. There's so many ways where you can support yourself in that way. For me, some of the things that have helped me in my life, if I'm able to share, obviously journaling has been an important one. I think being able to put what's in here on paper and creating that distance allows for sometimes a more objective um, point of view of the actual situation. Oftentimes, I would be writing things that have been in my mind, and I'm trying to solve it or I can't figure them out. But writing them down all of a sudden takes away some of that internal turmoil. And so I think journaling has been an important part. Meditation has been a really, 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 really important one in my life. Probably the most important in my life has been meditation. And there's so many ways that you can practice meditation. And not every kind of practice will work for everyone. But I found practices for me that were really helpful and that allowed me to, when I did feel right before competition, right before stepping onto the ice, and I'm feeling so overwhelmed and anxious and stressed, and just to be able to sit down for 15 seconds, 30 seconds and reconnect to my breathing and reconnect to the present moment just allows me to remember why I'm here, remember what's important, and remember that, first of all, this is not the end of the world. If I have a bad competition or if I don't perform well, it's not the end of the world. I still have people that love me and I'm still here and I still get to do the things that I love. And so taking away that ultimatum, that like, if I don't perform well, I am so bad or so unworthy. Breaking that connection, I think, is really important. Meditation has helped me with that in a lot of ways. Other things are obviously, talking to people, but also I think yoga is a really important practice for me too, not only physically, but this one is one that's really cool because physically you're giving your body some really important tools to be healthy and be mobile and be strong, but then you're also, working on your connection to yourself and your mind. And so those three, I think, are probably some of the most important ones that I've incorporated in my athletic life, but then that I still incorporate in my personal life because it has such an important role in my life. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you so much. And we had Sarah Ann Turon on Monday led us in a yoga practice that was really
Nice.
grounding, and she was outside when she was doing it, and it was beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
would have loved to take part in that. That sounds quite
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, and when you were talking about yoga or meditation and also journaling before too, some of the activities we've talked about in the past and in the resource guide and things like, because we put together a resource guide for folks to get inspired this week, and sit spots outside in nature where you just are sitting and observing something, and just sitting there you might visit that same spot throughout the whole year, something like that. And maybe you're also journaling about that afterwards, and just also taking those things outside. We always hear feedback about how impactful those practices can be, and then take them outside, and then it's incredible.
It elevates everything. Yeah, one thing that I wanted to add to that is just being in nature.
Mm-hmm.
Nature is extremely healing and nature is extremely grounding, and just being in nature and observing, just watching nature. There's so much that happens within the stillness of nature. You can watch, animals, you can watch trees, you can watch plants. There's so many things you can look at, and just it can take you back to the present, but also just the energy of nature and how that, we are so connected to it. We're made of the same things. We are the same as nature. And so us being in nature, it's almost like us going back to our home, where we're the most at home. Yes, in the city, obviously we have our house and all that, and that's obviously a safe space and it's home. But I think physiologically, our bodies, feel even more at home when we're in nature. And so that is an extremely important component. And you can do all of these things in nature, or you could just walk in nature and be with it. And it's so beautiful and so magical. And the older I'm getting, the more I'm noticing, and the more I'm able to be present with nature in a really intimate way.
Yeah, it seems like it's been a really big and important shift in your career once you started skating more outside and really putting that as in the forefront. I mean, so many of the videos that you put out, like on Instagram and TikTok, you're outside. Like it's hard to imagine it if you were doing it inside. Like it would be totally different.
Yeah, it's a different experience. And we even have to, because my wife and I, we work together on all of these videos, and she choreographs and creative directs, all the things that we do on social media. And we have to approach choreographing indoor a little bit differently than when we do outdoors, because outdoors there's so much more going on, visually, than indoors. And so sometimes indoors we have to find a way to keep people more engaged potentially than when we would have to outdoors, because outdoors just the nature and the environment is engaging in itself. And so we don't have to be as like, I don't want to say not as engaged, but we don't have to put in as much energy in that space, just because the nature around us is so engaging in itself. Yeah.
Do you have does a time stick out to you of something that's happened in nature, or skating in nature, that's memorable?
Yeah, I mean, one time I was skating and I had music in one ear, and I was really connecting to the music, connecting to my movement, and I was looking around while I was skating and while we were shooting, and looking at nature. And then all of a sudden I look at the side of the mountain, and there's a whole family of mountain goats just like laying on the side of the mountain while I'm skating. Like, and it's almost
Watching
like they were
you?
all watching me. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I had an audience of mountain goats just like watching me, and they were just laying, just chilling, and just like staring. And I was like, that's cool. Like, I've performed for human beings so many times, but now I can say I've performed for mountain goats. And I think that's pretty special.
And that was probably their first time seeing a figure skating performance too.
I would think so. Yeah. Especially on that part of the lake, because we went pretty deep into the lake where not a lot of people venture to. So yeah, no, it was an interesting one.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And have your movements and things like that changed as you've gone outside? And I mean, as sort of part of that question too, people are asking about, the kind of movements that you really enjoy, and also the tricks you do in the backflips, and what's all that about? How do you even do it?
Yeah, so the backflips I've been doing for a very long time. That I think I learned when I was maybe 15 or 16. So I've been doing it. I've been doing backflips for longer than when I wasn't doing back. Like, if you take my career, I've been backflipping for way longer in my career than not backflipping, which is kind of weird to say. But yeah, I've been doing it for a long time, and that's something that I've always been interested in learning. And the way we learned it was a little bit um how do I say it? It was not the most efficient way, because there's all these technological harness that you can wear that like help you like learn how to do it on the ice. But I won't say how I did it, just because I don't want to give ideas to anyone in terms of learning how to do it. But I did have some safety mechanism, and we kind of improvised it, and I learned how to do it while people were able to like support me. But after doing it a few times, I started to feel comfortable with it. And once you're comfortable with it, with support, what's left is just for you to do it without anyone supporting you, which is it's like diving
Big step.
diving off a cliff. You don't know where you're going to land, but you're hoping that you will land. And I did on my first one. I was really nervous. I like skated in circles, like probably for like half an hour
Hyping
before
yourself up.
yeah. No, I would go around. I'm like, okay, let's go. All right, let's go. Wait, no. Okay, next one. All right, let's do it. Let's do it. No, not yet. And so I did that for a while. And then eventually I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. And just kind of threw myself and landed. And it was all good. And I landed and I was like, okay, I'm done for today. I'm going home. I'm safe. Now let's see if we can do it the next day. And then I just kind of kept practicing it every day. And now it's become probably one of my easiest tricks that I do because it's so simple in terms of the technique compared to like doing a triple axel or compared to doing a quad. Like those technically are so much more intricate and it takes so much more finesse and precision to be able to do these kinds of jumps. Whereas a backflip, all I have to do is make sure that I have enough speed, make sure I plant my toe in the ice, and then just chuck myself backwards. And it happens.
You just chuck
90,
yourself backwards.
just chuck yourself backwards. And it happens 100% of the time, which is a pretty good, which is it's a good percentage. So it's quite easy to do now. But in terms of my movement, I want to say that in conjunction with obviously starting to skate more in nature, because I was diving deeper into who I was as an artist, that started expanding my vocabulary for movement. I started to try things that I had never tried before. And a big reason for that is my wife. She's a professional dancer and choreographer. And so working with her has been really transformative because I was so used to, up until a certain point, working with skating choreographers, and even myself when I was choreograph something, I'm limited by my lens of figure skating choreography. That's all I've seen, that's all I've known. And so whereas working with my wife, she doesn't have the lens of a figure skater, she's a dancer. And so a lot of times she would tell me like, okay, let's do this. And I'd be like, I don't think we could do that. Like, I don't think that's possible. And then we would get on the ice and we would try it and it would work out and be like, oh, okay. So we've just found, a pattern of choreography or a move that like no one has really done before because, we tried something that we didn't think was possible, but then we realized it is. And so we've been able to develop this new way of moving on the ice and this new way of connecting and this new way of telling a story through movement. And I think that's what people are so excited about on social media, is just how different everything looks than traditional figure skating. And that's a big mission of mine, is to try and introduce figure skating to people in a way they haven't seen it before. Because a lot of times figure skating is still stuck in, a few decades in the past, a few decades before. And I want to find a way to modernize it and find a way to, bring in hip hop music, use music that normally wouldn't typically be used because it's just not part of, figure skating culture. And I want to kind of break that mold and break that box to be able to show that figure skating is an art form, doesn't have boundaries, and we should be able to do whatever we want on the ice, and really encourage other skaters to do that, and especially the next generation of skaters, to understand that if they can then take that and approach it in a way that, they're finding their own authentic way of moving, then they're bringing something completely unique to the sport and completely unique to them. And I think that's a beautiful gift that I think anyone, should be able to experience.
Oh my gosh, yes, exactly. And yeah, shout out to Michelle, your wife. Sounds like an awesome duo.
Yeah, she's amazing.
And I mean, you two are working together on, you're doing your videos and you're skating and choreographing, and you started a whole nonprofit together. So you took your passion and you took a cause that you really cared about, and you did something totally different and started a whole new organization, which is,
Yeah.
tell us more about
No,
that.
that's something that's, thank you. Yeah, that's something that's really important to us, because we could see, especially in figure skating, you can see clearly where are some of the issues that lay in the sport. And, one of them is a massive lack of representation in figure skating. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but one of them is lack of access in underserved communities. A lot of people get priced out of the sport because it's so expensive. And so when we start looking at these things, and then in conjunction with, the big following we've been able to build on social media and the connections that we've been able to create, we want to use that to leverage. We want to leverage that to be able to then help, skaters of color or skate, or people in communities that maybe are interested in skating but don't know where to start because they don't necessarily have a rink in their community. So one of the first things we did is we kind of refurbished a rink in the Northeast in Calgary, which is an underserved community. And we've been able to donate, I think it was 50 pairs of skates for the community to use for free. And so just that alone, having the opportunity for kids to be able to go out there and skate for free, and maybe that's all that they do, then it's amazing. But maybe that'll spark, someone's love for skating, whether it's hockey or speed skating or figure skating. But giving these kids the opportunity to be able to experience some of these things, I think is really important. And then another thing that we're in the process of doing right now is raising funds to be able to help give out grants to skaters of color who might be struggling with paying their bills. My parents struggled a lot. If it wasn't for my whole life, pretty much, I had coaches who were really understanding of the situation and, basically didn't charge me for coaching, which doesn't happen. And I don't know how I got that lucky, but, if it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't be here now, and I wouldn't be a figure skater. And so knowing that, I'm like, if I can help try to alleviate the financial burden that some of these skaters have, then maybe it's giving them a chance to, achieve success, and whatever success means to them. We want to be part of that journey. So yeah, it's important work. And we believe that it's something that will help, the next generation of Black, Indigenous, and people of color.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's incredible. And it must feel like, both at the same time, sort of a lot of pressure and sort of challenging, because it's there's a lot to do, but I hope it also feels like a really rewarding part of your work. Yeah
it really does. I think when I see, even just being the representation for the next generation of BIPOC skaters is huge. Getting messages from parents, saying, my kid is mixed as well and never was interested in skating, but after seeing your videos now, he's obsessed, and or she, and they want to, they want to skate, and that's their passion. Hearing things like that really show me the importance of the work that we do. And that alone, I think, is enough fulfillment for this journey to be fueled by.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
and
yeah,
they're seeing someone who looks similar to them, or at least is challenging the idea they have in their head of what a figure skater could look like, or a professional athlete in general. And
exactly,
it's huge.
yeah. And I didn't grow up with any representation really in a sport, and so it forced me to believe that who I was and what I wanted to be on the ice was not what the sport wanted. And it kind of put me in a place where I could see who was successful in the sport. And so I then started to change the way that I operated, and what kind of clothes I wore, what kind of music I listened to in order to fit that mold. But that mold wasn't necessarily authentic to me. And so I kind of sacrificed my relationship with myself in order to find that success, which I then later realized that it was not worth it, and I wanted to find my authentic voice and be able to be myself, and then find a way to be celebrated for it. And I think what happened with social media was exactly that, is I was able to fully be myself, wear what I want to wear, skate to what I want to skate to, skate the way that I want to skate to, and be celebrated for it. And I think that was a really powerful moment for me to realize that I am enough as I am. And I don't have to try to be something else or someone else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And getting so much good feedback and becoming, gaining such a large audience of people who are saying, yes, we see you.
We see you.
Yeah. And we support you.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, thank you for sharing that. And there was someone in the chat who was saying that they use heavy metal in their figure skating. So
That's sick.
yeah.
That's sick. You know what? Like, oh man, like that, and that's what I mean. Like, because it's an art form, there's no boundaries. Like, I would love to see heavy metal performed on the ice. Like, that would be, I would be so intrigued by that. So whoever that person is, I would love to see them. I'd love to see a video of that. That would be really cool.
Right. So cool. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like there's a bunch of questions that have come through as we've been talking, and some of them we've kind of touched on, but I feel like I should give some
Sure.
time
Yeah.
to those questions
Yeah.
too.
Let's fire them.
We'll do some ones. I mean, there's tons. So thank you to everyone who's been in the chat sending their questions in, much more than we have time for. But what is, oh, there's so many. What is your favorite thing to do outside other than skating?
Ooh, yeah, that's a really good question. Um, Obviously spending time in nature just in general. In the summer we go hiking a lot, and just being in nature is something that I really enjoy. Um, I really love video games, and so I enjoy playing video games. I am a avid manga reader. I love Japanese manga, and watching anime. It's something that just fills my heart with excitement. um yeah, and then I think just spending time with, my dog and my wife, and going out on walks, and just yeah, continuing to kind of deepen our relationship.
Yeah, thank you. And that was from Mrs. Graham's grade 3-4 class, just to give
Thank you
them a
for your
shout out.
question.
Yeah. From a grade 5-6 class, what is your favorite part about skating? Hands down. We've talked about a lot of different things, but if you had to choose.
That's a tough one. I'm toying between uh backflipping
Fair.
and just being able to like skate freely, just like put music on, and
Mm,
just like lose myself in the speed of the movement, and connecting to the music, and just like being so present with art. I think that is probably, I would say that outweighs backflips now. For the longest time, backflipping was
oh.
my favorite thing to do, but now I really believe that yeah, connecting to the art form and just like freely skating, and yeah, it's probably my favorite part.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. And people were wondering about, are you skating when you're off the ice? Are you doing stuff in the summer? Are you rollerblading? Are you roller skating? Are you you're doing other stuff?
No. I mean, there's a lot of indoor rinks, and so I do train like when I need to, keep my jumps up, or try to choreograph something over the summer, even shoot some videos. We do go indoors. But I used to rollerblade as a kid. I used to go to like the skate parks, and I had these we called them blades at the time, but they were like these rollerblades that have like really wide platforms on the side,
Oh,
and you can
cool.
like jump on rails, and like, grind down rails, or
Sweet.
like tricks and stuff like that. Like that's something that I used to love to do. Um, but I saw one of my friends get injured, and then I was like, I'm gonna pass. I'm good.
Fair
I like
enough.
skating
Yeah.
too much. Yeah.
Which gives you your fair share of injuries.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Even more so probably, but yeah.
Yeah, as it goes. Someone asked, which I think is a really nice question from Miss Lister's grade 3 class. How does skating make you feel?
That's a great question. Um, Free.
Mm.
Yeah. It makes me feel free. It makes me feel like I am enough as I am, and I can be who I am in this moment, and that is all that is needed. Um, the freedom of it is just such a uh something that I had never really experienced before. And so I think that's why it's so it has such an impact on me now, because I was so restricted for so many years and trying to fit into a mold for so many years, that now, since I started skating outside in nature and started, diving deeper into this artistry, like I just feel this amount of freedom that I'd never felt before. And it's so powerful that it takes over um everything. So yeah, I think freedom.
Yeah.
Great
Oh, and
question.
that is a great question. And I mean, you can see, if you see a video, like when you're watching a video of you skating, it comes through.
Yeah, it's just like this, there's like this connection to myself that I don't feel in any other uh part of my life, and I think that that connection is what fuels this freedom.
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you. I think
Of
that's a
course.
really, really good place to actually end on. I think
Wrap
that's a
it.
beautiful place to wrap it. And I mean, yeah, it's already 3 minutes to the top of the hour here. And so I mean, I feel like we could have probably talked for a while,
Gone on for
especially
a
with the
long
like,
time.
yeah, we
Yeah,
got dozens of questions too. So I'm sorry we didn't get to everybody's. But I thank you so much.
of
That
course.
was really fantastic
It's
to
my pleasure. And
chat.
I really thank you everyone for tuning in and for asking questions. And I can feel the engagement, and to me, it just, yeah, it makes me really excited and happy. So I appreciate it.
Mhm.
I appreciate you, Stephanie, for, talking to me and having this really great conversation. And yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Likewise, thank you so much. And I mean, and there'll be folks watching the recording too, and who didn't get a chance to ask a question, but they can follow along, and they can find you on social media, right?
Yeah, absolutely. My handles are just at Elladj Balde, my name both on TikTok and Instagram, and that's where you'll find me.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I'm going to announce prize winners from those who ask questions. And I'm going to shift gears just for a moment here in our last couple of minutes. And so we give prizes away every time we do a presentation, and we always want to show appreciation for everyone participating. So we have prizes today from the Outdoor Learning Store. So thanks to the Outdoor Learning Store, they support us today, they support us this week, they support us all year. They're great. Go check them out. So they're donating $25 today to a winner. Mountain Equipment Company also supports us and helps keep this event free for everybody participating, and they're giving away $50 to spend at MEC. And we're also giving away $25 to the Take Me Outside store. I have my shirt that says "Ask Your Teacher to Take You Outside" today, and so we're going to give away one of those. And Oceanwise also donated a free aqua class virtual program, which is very cool. And we're going to throw that in there too. And Nicholas is putting links in the chat. Thank you so much, Nicholas. So I'll announce the winners. If your name is announced and you hear it, then just type your email in the chat to us, or you can also email us. Our email is in the chat there. If you have photos from this week, if you want to send us anything or send us activities, what you're doing, anything like that, stay in touch. We always love to hear from you. So the 4 winners today are Mrs. Kerr's grade 3 class. Congratulations. Mademoiselle McGregor. Congratulations. Emma, sort of a mysterious handle. So Emma, please reach out so we can find you. And Cindy Zintel, thank you so much. All 4 of you are winners today. And with that, because this is the last presentation of the week, the recording will be up soon on YouTube. But the information for the rest of the week, there's a day of reflection and celebration tomorrow, but also if you're looking for any of the other recordings or information, anything like that, it's all on our website. Nicholas is going to put that in the chat there now, but I know you can all find us if you need to. So with that, only 1 minute late, that's our presentation for today. Thank you so much, Elladj. Oh my
Thank
gosh.
you. No, thank you. And yeah, anytime. I would love to do this again one day.
Amazing. All right. Take care.
Bye.